I think we're ready to go. I understand we've got a number of people with us now. So I'm going to introduce myself, and then maybe you could introduce yourselves. My name is Brendan Keaney. I'm the Artistic Director and CEO of DanceEast. Camilla, shall we go to you?
Yeah, sure. I'm Camilla Greenwell. I'm a freelance photographer and I've specialised in dance for the past 10 years now. Yeah, and filmmaker now, but this is my first film, so, but normally just photographer.
Anna-Kay.
Hi, I'm Anna-Kay Gayle. I'm a dance artist and a creative chameleon.
And James.
And I'm James Cousins. I'm a choreographer and I'm really bad at using Zoom, even after nearly a year. I was an associate at DanceEast and have performed there myself and had my work performed there a number of times. And yeah, it's a real pleasure to be here this evening with you all.
So welcome. This is our first online event of 2021. And I'm sure lots of people have heard the joke, 2021 is being referred to now as the sequel. Same plot as last year with less excitement because we know what's going to happen. But we're about to change all that, I hope. James, I wonder if you could just start off by telling us a little bit about what it is we're going to be seeing later and how it came to be.
Yeah, so we're sharing with you a project that Camilla and I first started talking about last summer, which initially was just going to be a photography project and then turned into a photography and film project. So you'll be seeing a film and a gallery of images as well. And it came from, I guess, me responding to the lockdown situation, feeling like my world, my experience, my life as a dancer and a creator was sort of like completely gone, and trying to somehow connect to that and wanting to have a conversation with some of the dancers that I worked with around that, really, and to kind of draw out those experiences and to share them. That was really the starting point for it.
I'm going to move on to Camilla in a minute, but I just wanted to tell people we've got 110 people with us, joined us. If you want to ask questions, this is the people out there, you use the Q&A function. I've got two colleagues, one's called Antonia and one's called Vasanthi, who are up there. We can't see them, but we can see the boxes, and they're going to try to send messages to me so that I can ask those questions. So we hopefully will be able to take some questions from you shortly. But I'm going to move on to Camilla. Can you tell me about your role in this? Because I think it's all quite pivotal, weren't you, in there?
You're very pivotal in this.
Well, I think usually when I work, I do collaborate with people, but generally I kind of come into a process and I will document what's going on. So I'll document a rehearsal process, or I'll document a performance, or, you know, we'll make some promotional images. But I think with this, it felt a lot more kind of documentary. And I mean, me and James didn't really have a plan as such. We just really wanted to make some work because we felt like it was really important to be working and to make something at this time. Like, I think a lot of people felt really in need of that. Me definitely as well. So we talked about it, and like James said, it was going to be a photography project, because that's up until now I've been a photographer. I've not made any film, but lockdown gave me a bit of time, which I don't normally have, to kind of have a look at that. So I just said, I'm just going to take a little bit of footage, see what happens, and actually I think it worked really well with this. But it was very, I mean, in terms of my role, you know, the dance artists were doing so much. You know, I would kind of turn up. We didn't have a plan for them or direction. Everyone spoke to James a little bit before, and he was kind of on call in case we needed any help in that way. But everyone kind of flung themselves into it, and I became a bit of a fly on the wall. So, you know, I mean, I would direct in the way of saying, you know, I think we should be in this room, or we should be here, or we should, you know, like the light is really nice here. But after that, I would set up and I would kind of let everyone, you know, kind of move in the way they wanted. And I think that felt very different for each of them. And I think, as AK will probably talk about, a lot of people hadn't really been moving much, and it felt quite felt quite different, but they really took hold of it and ran with it. So as you'll see.
So I'm going to move on to Anna-Kay. Tell me how it worked practically, exactly what was the process?
So I remember getting the email about it, and I was like, this is really interesting. I'm definitely intrigued and interested in sharing an insight to what a dancer's life would be like in lockdown. Because I know I had my challenges, like not having a space, or not finding things difficult to do in my house, or having everything being done in my house, and I'm used to going into different spaces. So after I agreed I was doing it, me and James had a conversation where he kind of gave me ideas or words or things to think about to draw movement from. And then he left it quite free and quite open, which is not usually how it works when I've worked with him. There's usually choreography and more direction, and him saying and molding what I do more to shape the story or what we're trying to project or what we're trying to portray. When it was almost like, here are these ideas, here are these words, now do what you want with them. And then having Camilla in my space with not being in isolation for such a long time, it was quite healing in a very strange, like euphoric way. Because there were moments where I even forgot she was in the room or she was there, because I just got so lost in truly expressing the emotions of how I was feeling through movement.
So I've got a question. I'm not sure who wants to answer this, but it's a question from Charlie. It's how long did it take to create the work? So what was the duration? It'd be good to know how long was the planning bit, and then how long was the actual filming, and how long?
I mean, planning wise, I think we had a couple of initial conversations, but again, yeah, left it quite open. I think we had a brief chat with all of you, didn't we? All of the dancers before we started, just to kind of see if anyone had any questions and kind of give a brief outline. I asked each dancer, so I spent one day with each of them, but like a full day. So I'd say it was like 7 hours. AK, do you think? It was a long day.
It was a long day.
We had lunch. We had snacks. But
we had lunch.
Was this in real together? You were together actually, or were you on Zoom or?
No, we were together. This was so the time then when this happened was actually in summer, at a point when you could be in each other's spaces. So so I would go there, but again, that's why we kept it small. So I didn't take anyone with me. I didn't have an assistant. It was just me, which actually as well, regardless of COVID and restrictions, and I would have preferred to work like that anyway, because I felt like it was such an intimate shoot that it made I just think it would have been so different if there had been other people there. So yeah, with each dancer it took a day, and then the editing process probably, I mean, again, I'm quite new to filming, so I think the editing process probably took me a bit longer than maybe it usually would, but don't know, James, how long do you think?
A month maybe? Yeah,
a month. And then we got Torben involved as well, which was amazing. Who created the soundtrack, so that was a few more conversations. So I don't know if I've actually answered that question.
I mean, I think we conceived it in August, and we had it done by November.
Yeah.
But I mean, following on from Camilla's point about her not, just being there by herself and not wanting to be too intrusive with a big team. I think also for me, because I wasn't there with them, they just did it, Camilla and the dancer. And actually, I'm quite pleased it was that way, because I feel like if I had been there, I would have, shaped their movement more, or, they would have also, the dancers would have looked to me to, ask for that as well, probably. Like, how's that looking? Or can we? And I think in me not being there allowed them to just express what they needed to express in that moment. And so as a result, I think we have such a personal project that yeah, hopefully it comes across in the film and the pictures.
And Anna-Kay, was it complicated not having that direction? If you said you worked with James before, you're used to getting direction. How did it feel? Was it liberating, or was it sort of puzzling?
It was really liberating to not have any direction. I think because what our structure of being a dancer, or my day-to-day routine anyway, just got completely destroyed. So I think the idea of someone being there giving me directions on point probably would have been a bit like that for me. So having the freedom to allow myself to think about the words that he told me and the conversation that we had, but then also to just draw upon how I was feeling at the time. I know there was countless moments when I was moving, I think especially my living room, where a lot was happening for me during lockdown, that I was almost close to tears in several moments. I'm glad that footage was not used. But it was nice to be able to just actually show raw emotions through my movement and not be so concerned about the structure or the form of my movement. I felt like that was really needed at that time.
I remember, oh, sorry.
No, carry on.
Oh no, I was just going to say, maybe I have this wrong, but AK, did you say to James before the shoot, didn't you say, oh, I'm really worried, what if I can't move? Like, what if I don't want to dance? And James was like, well, if you don't want to dance, you don't have to. Like, you can be still. We can do whatever you want. And I'm glad that you felt like you wanted to on the day, but it would have been fine not to. So yeah, I think that was really lovely.
And I remember you saying to me afterwards that about how liberating it had been, because I think you'd said, I haven't moved for, I don't know if you'd been injured or something, but you just hadn't moved or whatever.
Yeah. I had to move for a month.
Yeah, you moved for a month, and then that was it. You'd been away, hadn't you? Yes. Yeah. Everyone's like, what happened to her? But yeah, you hadn't moved. So you said, I remember you saying to me afterwards, gosh, it was so expansive and liberating, and like that, it just all poured out of me in the moment. And I think it's nice that you almost weren't expecting it. It just kind of came.
It literally just happened.
Yeah.
So James, in your invitation to Anna-Kay, did you give her any words? Were there any words, or was it just how did you approach it?
So for me, the initial sort of the start of the conversation came from me feeling equally trapped in my home, but also my home being like a sanctuary that felt really sacred and important. And this like duality that I was experiencing in the same space was like really on my mind, like how it felt equally like a prison and this sanctuary. And I was like, and so I kind of went to the dance. I was like, are you feeling this too? Like, or is this just me? And I think there was this shared feeling. And yeah, so the offer was, well, can we shoot in your home? And can you take Camilla to a place that for you has been a sort of a sanctuary through these last however many months it had been at that point. And yeah, in terms of words, yeah, I think we were thinking about restriction and how you'd felt sort of confined, and then equally the spaces of finding ease and peace and expansiveness. And so it was just looking at these, I mean, it was nothing like, mind-blowingly deep other than that really. And it was just and then through a conversation with each of them, we sort of went into, okay, so what's that been for you, and what's that been for you, and yeah, and then they went from that. Is that kind of, Anna-Kay, would you add anything to that?
I thought we also discussed how our space really changed and morphed to who we were as people, and how we like function in our spaces. Yeah. And outside space was an outside space that brought you something, another level of sanctuary that your home didn't, because there was that duality of my house was my safe space, but oh my God, I'm stuck in my house. Like it was like wanted to rip your hair out. And then finding that space outside of home where you also felt comfortable. I think that's, we also touched upon that, where when you weren't at home, where did you go that gave you that, that gave that breath, that space? Yeah.
And in terms of, and it was quite different for each of the 4 dancers, because Anna-Kay lives by herself. And then we asked Reese, who lives with his family. And then the other 2 live with their partners. So for each of them, it was quite different. And that was deliberately chosen. Like we were quite, Camilla and I were quite, we thought about like, oh, what are these people's situations that's going to make it kind of interesting to, you know, so it's not just 4 dancers who each live with their partner. You know, we tried to make sure there was a difference, and hopefully that comes across as well.
I've got a question here from Charlotte. I'm guessing it's for Anna-Kay, obviously. Did you keep within your comfort zone in terms of style of dance, or did you, you know, were you doing something different?
Definitely wasn't in my comfort zone on more than one occasion. I think a lot of how I move, especially when it comes to when I'm allowed to just improvise and be free, I draw upon all the different styles that I've trained in, or I've dabbled in, or had experienced. So there was moments that I was probably doing movement that weren't necessary, that James has probably never seen me do, or definitely there's no footage of me actually doing that sort of movement, because I've always been in a completely different mind frame when working with others. So I don't think I was in my comfort zone at all. There was only a few moments where I think I was like doing something because it felt good, and I like moving like that. Then eventually, once I got really comfortable, Camilla's energy was just so amazing, so it's easy for me to just sit. I then just allowed myself to go everywhere.
And this is a sort of follow-on question a bit from Laura, who's asked, were you more critical of yourself because you hadn't danced in a long time? Or was it, you know, easy, free?
I was definitely more gentle in the beginning. Like I was definitely taking more time through the beginning. But as the day went along, I freed up a little bit more, and almost remembered why I moved and what was my purpose of being a dancer, and also just what was the rooted reason to what got me to dance in the first place. And it's just the ability to express an emotion or a feeling or convey something through just body language.
Camilla, you're saying this was you haven't done much film, or hardly any film, or was this?
This is pretty much, I did a film in lockdown with a theatre company. Someone got in touch, and normally I would probably have declined because I think I wouldn't have had time, and but I had a lot of time. so I kind of made a film with them. And yeah, and that is definitely what prompted, I mean, that felt quite different because it was photographing something quite specific, but that's what prompted me to say to James, oh, I'd really like to try a bit of filming with this. And actually I think it worked really well for the project. As you'll see, we're able to incorporate a kind of dialogue with all the dancers, and I think that really makes, for me, that's kind of one of my favorite parts of the film as well, hearing everyone speak. So yeah, it was a very different process for me, but it was great, and everyone was very patient with me while I set up my camera and was like, I think it's on. It is on, it's fine. But yeah.
This is a sort of general question. It's come through, and it's from Daphne. It's has lockdown made you feel different about creating? Have you changed your approach? Has it made you think differently about things?
That's a good question.
It's a great question.
I mean, for me, less so now, but definitely in the first lockdown, I felt like social distancing to me didn't feel like this void. It felt like a wall, because I am so used to being in contact with the people that I'm creating with, and I use a lot of contact work, and I'm really interested in touch and connection and intimacy and exploring that in my work. And suddenly there being this 2 meter gap between me and everyone else. It felt like a 2-meter thick wall. And it really affected me and my ability to feel creative, because I just felt like this wall was there, and blocking me from being creative in any way. So yeah, I think I kind of had to kind of overcome that, which has been hard. Yeah, I don't know if that really answers the question, but it's definitely yeah. There's been issues. I don't know if Anna-Kay. Sorry, there's lots of questions.
Running low on time now, but I have got a question from Emily, which is directly to James, which is: did you find it hard to be not to be part of the filming process? Did it make you feel more detached from the work?
No, I mean, as I said before, like, I'm quite pleased I wasn't there, because I think it gave the dancers the opportunity to just express themselves without me interfering in that, which I would have done. And no, I mean, I spoke to Camilla before the shoot and after the shoot, and then was very much, you know, part of the editing process and commenting on that. And actually it was mine, you know, from the start, I knew I wasn't gonna be curating, you know, making the dancers' steps. Like, that was my decision from the start. And so, yeah, no, it felt like kind of the perfect thing. And I was really happy actually to give the dancers this space to express themselves, and for audiences to be able to see this side of the dancers. Like, they only ever see the side that's on stage or on film and polished and has been worked and rehearsed and, you know, to an inch of its life. And actually to go like, this is actually who these people are. I really wanted to do.
I think we can have a little bit of a break before we go into the film. I think there should be a link. You should be able to see a link, is that correct? Just before we go, what happens to it now? This is the first public performance, that's right. You've had a private view, haven't you? This is the first public. What next for the film? Where does it go next? What are you going to do with it? And is there going to be some, like 2021, more sequels? Is there?
Going to be sequels. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'd love to, you know, if there's other venues in the country. We are speaking to a few other venues as well about doing similar things like this. But yeah, I mean, Camilla and I talked about maybe the photography could be in a physical exhibition. That we'd love to explore that as well. I've seen Gary's question about, are we going to transfer the choreography to the stage? I don't know. I think because it's so the film captures that moment, and I don't know. I personally don't think we can then transfer that to the stage. I think it's like, it's just that moment, and it was then, and I don't know, maybe Anna-Kay, you disagree with me, you think it should go on stage, but I don't know.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I like the rawness and the honesty of the film and the pictures. I think if we were to try and put it on stage, it will lose something. Like you said, when you rehearse something, it's polished, it's like, I like the fact that I look back at those things and I was like, oh my God, really, your hand was like this. I'm like, oh, but it's okay, because that's how it was then. When if it was a rehearsal or something on a stage, you aim for perfection to some degree as a dancer when things are on stage. And then if you do it more than once, you eventually become, I never get bored because I always explore new ideas, but there's a moment where you can also get bored, or it becomes stale to some degree, because you've done it so much, and I feel like it can lose its, you know? So yeah, I know, I feel like it should be what it was then. It might be something we'll look back at when we're like 80.
Yeah.
I think we've got to wrap up actually, which is a real shame, because I think we're just getting going. And I understand there's loads and loads of questions. Huge thank you for talking to us. Thank you for starting 2021 in a jolly way. It's good. It's exciting to be doing this. Thank you to those people who asked the questions, and thank you as well for sorry to those of you who we couldn't get to the questions. It's a bit of a shame. So how long is the film, and what happens after the film?
Film's about 6 minutes long, and then I think, are the photos on?
The photos.
It's all there. The gallery is there. Yeah,
Great.
you'll
And then
go
you
to
can
the
see
gallery and there's the film and all the images. Would encourage you to look at it on a computer or laptop because it will be a better experience than a phone, and do make the film full screen as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and everybody out there enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for having us. Thank you.